Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here. My name's Brian. And this is one of what will probably end up being a couple of my end of the year favorite Blu-rays and 4Ks slash, holiday shopping guide videos. Stuff I would recommend that I'm a big fan of that you could purchase for physical media fans in your life or movie fans. And I will preface by saying this is not going to be all-inclusive. I'm not going to necessarily grab everything that you might think would be on a list like this. And it's very personal. It's very much about the movies, and it's about my connection to them. Sometimes it's about the whole package. But a lot of times it's just about the movies, really, and how much I am excited to have this version in my collection. So, take this all with a grain of salt, if you will. And there's been so much great stuff this year that it's really hard to narrow things down. And so this is just a first pass, which is why I'll probably end up doing a second round. But that said, there's a lot. There was a lot this year. I feel like physical media fans have a lot to be grateful for because we continue to get just so much stuff that's of a high quality and tons of movies that I didn't think would get the Cadillac treatment they got. And I'm going to start big. I'm going to start with what is probably one of my favorite releases of the year. I'm going to start with 4Ks. We'll go through the 4Ks first, and then we'll go into regular Blu-rays. But I haven't talked about it on the channel, which is ridiculous because at the time it came out, I felt like everybody bought it and everybody was talking about it. But now I'm kind of thinking that I just need to remind people that this is one of my favorite releases of the year, and it is the 4K UHD release from Vinegar Syndrome of Richard Franklin's film Cloak and Dagger from 1984. This, for me, was, when it was announced, just one of those moments of total euphoria. Just like, wow, is that really happening? I saw the rumors leading up to the actual announcement, and I was like, that can't happen. How can that be a thing? It seemed like something that was a studio title that maybe Vinegar Syndrome wouldn't do. They had definitely done studio titles, but more on the MGM side and less on the Universal side. So I was like, I don't know. That seems out of the realm of what they're doing. But I couldn't have been happier that they got it and that they put it out because they just absolutely destroyed with this release. This is the, one of their patented magnetic box releases. And the artwork is just incredible on it, and it comes with a really awesome slipcase that looks like the video cartridge for the Cloak and Dagger game, and then the actual Blu-ray itself looks like the actual cartridge. This is like the box for the cartridge, and then the cartridge, and you get your Blu-ray and your 4K, and it's just one of the best. I mean, this for me wins best packaging for the year. It also has this really wonderful booklet done like that, with some cool stuff and even like it's just really, really incredible in terms of the actual release itself as well. So you have, let's see here. Restored from its 35mm original camera negative, 4K UHD. This has a commentary track with screenwriter Tom Holland, who would go on to do Fright Night and such. That's monitored by Joe Lynch, filmmaker Joe Lynch. I'm a huge fan of Joe Lynch. He is a huge proponent of good movies and physical media, and it's a great track. They really dig deep into the history of the film. They dig up some dirt, and no holds barred really in the commentary, and it's really, really great. I really loved hearing the behind the scenes on a movie that has been beloved to me for such a long time. So anyway, Cloak and Dagger, brand new making of documentary, with interviews with Michael Murphy and some of the other cast members, and it's just glorious. There's an interview with director Richard Franklin, an old one, and an archival Q&A with him. He's passed on now, but this is the movie he made after Psycho 2. Basically, he did Road Games, and that was a big breakout, and then he does Psycho 2, and then he does this. And this is very much a Hitchcockian kid story, and I just love it. It's been a big deal to me forever. Even the inside of the box has, like, stuff that I love. So anyway, I haven't properly given this its due, so I had to start the video by really saying, hey, Cloak and Dagger, kudos to Vinegar Syndrome. You guys just absolutely made me so happy with this release, and it's one that I can't recommend highly enough. A must own, absolutely, if you're into this kind of stuff. And while we're on Vinegar Syndrome, I'll just bring in Roadhouse, because this just came out on 4K as part of their Black Friday package, and it's also fantastic. Really nicely done, again, in the magnetic box with a nice book. And if you don't know Roadhouse, I don't know what to tell you. It has reversible artwork that has the old cover like this, basically. But I'm going to leave the regular stuff. But this is another one that's restored from its 35mm original camera negative. The colors really pop in this. It is a blast. It is directed by Rowdy Harrington and produced by Joel Silver. And one of the great Patrick Swayze roles of all time as Dalton. He's the greatest bouncer ever, and he comes up against an evil force in Ben Gazzara, and it is something really special, this one. And Kelly Lynch is incredible in this too, and I love this movie, and I was just watching the beginning of it before this video because I love this sort of build-up to Dalton, you know? Everybody's like, I thought you'd be bigger, and we don't get to see him really fight for a little while. Once he does, you're like, oh yeah. That's the stuff right there. So yeah, there's a booklet, and really, really nice release. And I look forward to what Vinegar Syndrome is going to be doing in 2023, because I'm sure there's going to be some more epic studio UHD releases. I don't know anything about what they'll be, but based on just these two, their UHD output has been just spectacular. Let's kick it over to so many options here, folks. Let's kick it over to Scream Factory. Now, here's one of those movies that I didn't think would get. I was hoping just for a Blu-ray, and we got Alligator in 4K, and it looks fantastic. I love this movie. I'm a huge animal attacks movie guy. It's like one of my favorite genres of all time, and so this is one of the best, really. I mean, it's a sort of a Jaws knockoff. It's Robert Forster as a cop who gets pulled into this investigation of, this giant alligator that's running loose in the sewers of, I think, L.A. I want to say it's an L.A. movie. But it is truly wonderful, and I love everything about it. And it's Louis Teague, the director, doing a wonderful job with John Sayles' screenplay, and it's just great. And I really was so excited. Again, this was another one where I was like, wow, they're doing that. New 4K scan of the original negative, commentary by Louis Teague and Robert Forster. That's an old one, but it's great. And then they also did Alligator 2, which I don't like as much as a Blu-ray, but not a 4K. But lots of nice features on this one, and it looks great. And so Alligator, definitely one of my favorite 4Ks of the year. Then we have Tobe Hooper's The Funhouse. Probably my favorite Tobe Hooper movie, although where's my Life Force Blu-ray? Dang it. Life Force should probably be in here too, but I didn't have it handy. I might have put it back on the shelf up there. I don't see it. But anyway, Life Force also. So you get a couple good Tobe Hooper movies in 2022. Both look spectacular, and The Funhouse for me is just really one of those movies that's like, it's really special. It's just a great, carnival slasher, creepy movie, truly beautifully production designed, and just an uneasy story of this girl and a group of friends that go to the carnival one night. They decide to sneak into the fun house ride and stay the night, and they end up witnessing some stuff that is really bad and that they will be in trouble for. And it's great stuff. So really great looking 4K from Scream Factory. Then we have Return of the Living Dead. Dan O'Bannon doing his thing here in one of the great zombie films ever, with both a sense of humor and a sense of history for the genre, spinning off of Night of the Living Dead. And again, this one looks really great. This is another, they went back to the original negative and looks nice. I think the same thing can be said for, Funhouse also. Dang, I'm so bummed I forgot Life Force. Definitely put Life Force on your list, because it's a must as well. And a great, Tobe Hooper does, an epic sci-fi vampire hammer movie. It's just amazing. But this is also really great, really beautiful 4K, and bringing over a lot of the features they've already done. I know this is tough for some people because these are discs they've already issued. Same thing with Army of Darkness, which this is the Blu-ray steelbook of it. But again, they're going back to the original camera negative on these scans, and they look great. This is a classic, the third in the Evil Dead trilogy, and just crazy this is made by a big studio. I just love that. Same thing about Funhouse. That's a Universal movie. I mean, in the 80s, it makes more sense, but this is in the 90s, and Bruce Campbell, just killing it as this character that he truly owned and really made iconic. It is a blast. It is the most comedic of all of them, although Evil Dead 2 is darn funny too. But I love Army of Darkness, and you get some nice features on this. Again, coming from their Army of Darkness release. What I was trying to say before is that it's tough to know about upgrading, but picture quality on these Shout Factory, Scream Factory, Blu-ray 4Ks, are really, really something. I really have been impressed. And the same thing goes for now. I don't think this is a Scream Factory. This is just a straight up Shout Factory release. This is the 4K UHD of Coraline, which is one of my kids' favorite movies, and which looks really nice on 4K. And as you would expect, Henry Selick directing, Neil Gaiman story, and it's a modern classic, and I was really excited to see this 4K, and the detail on the animation is just glorious. And so very nice release from Shout Factory of Coraline. It doesn't mention the transfer here, but it does look really good. So that's it for Shout Factory. Let's dig into some Kino, shall we? I just got this one this week. This is just now coming out. It is The Taking of Pelham 123 from 1974. A really great thriller set in the subways of New York. And it's one of those things where it, was remade by Tony Scott. It's a movie that I feel like people know a little better now. The villains in the movie all have color code names. Some people thought maybe Quentin Tarantino was influenced to use color code names from Reservoir Dogs because of this movie. I don't know if that's true or not, but Robert Shaw is really great as the leader of this group of kidnappers, including a very sadistic Hector Elizondo, and Martin Balsam is also in the mix. You have Walter Matthau as one of the transit authority folks who's dealing with these kidnappers. And it's just a great cast of New York character actors across the board, and a great score from David Shire. And it's just got that great, powerful horns. It's just one of the great musical scores. This has got a commentary track from there's a new one from film historian Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson, which is good, but the audio commentary by actor-filmmaker Pat Healy and his brother, film programmer, film historian Jim Healy, is one of my they call it a fan commentary track, which is being humble, I think, because these guys know as much or more than any film historian I've heard talk on a track, and they're brothers, and they're very casual with each other, and it's just a great conversational thing, but they're bringing out all kinds of great details about the actors, the production, the cinematographer Owen Roisman, screenwriter Peter Stone, the director Joseph Sargent. They've got all kinds of details. So it is above and beyond a fan commentary. It is really a great track. These guys are true cinephiles of the highest order, and I really love that they ported that over from the Blu-ray, but this 4K looks excellent. This is a brand new HDR Dolby Vision Master from a 4K scan of the original OCN, and looks wonderful. This is one of my favorite films from the 70s, and a great movie that is definitely worth snagging. Let's see here. We'll do Dressed to Kill. This is Brian De Palma's thriller from 1980, I want to say. Yep. A spin on some Hitchcock stuff. One of the great wordless openings, or almost wordless opening sequences. Definitely some Psycho in here. You have characters watching each other as a regular part of De Palma films. This is another new scan, a brand new Dolby Vision HDR Master, 4K scan of the original camera negative, and porting over a bunch of features. I can't remember if this matches all that were on the Dressed to Kill Criterion Blu-ray. I think there might be a few things missing. You can go back and look at my video review of this one. I do think I compared them. I don't think there's that much missing, but this is a really great 4K of De Palma, and I love his work in terms of the look. So it's really nice to see this in the best presentation possible. And yeah, this is one of my favorites of the year, and one of my favorite De Palma films, period. Great performance by Keith Gordon and Nancy Allen, and really good stuff. So, Dressed to Kill. Then I've got a couple classics here. One of my all-time favorite films here, The Apartment, Billy Wilder's film from 1960, the Academy Award-winning film, story of a low on the totem pole insurance company working like actuarial guy who finds his way up the company by letting his apartment out to be used by executives for their extramarital affairs, until he realizes that one of them is the girl he's really into, and that is Shirley MacLaine. And it's just a beautiful movie. Beautiful widescreen black and white, and it looks really fantastic. The black and white detail, the color 4Ks are great, but I love a black and white 4K. There's just something about the grain that you can see, and I don't know, beautiful stuff. Again, this is this one doesn't mention the transfer, but it does look really good. And you've got two commentaries here, one by film historian Joseph McBride, who did a Billy Wilder book that's really great, and the Bruce Block commentary, also great, as well as Inside the Apartment and The Magic of Jack Lemmon. Just a really nice release for one of my favorite movies, so I had to get that. And then another classic, we've got Stanley Kubrick's The Killing from 1956, heist movie based on the Lionel White novel about a racetrack robbery, which shows the robbery from multiple points of view, stars Sterling Hayden and some very fun character actors, including Marie Windsor and who am I missing here? J.C. Flippin, Vince Edwards, of course, yes, and Alicia Cook Jr., really great in this. And this one also, this does mention brand new Dolby Vision HDR Master from a 4K scan of the original camera negative with an audio commentary by the great Alan K. Rode, who is one of the true superstars of classic film commentaries. Always does a lovely job bringing the facts and some humor, and it's a really nice track. So this is well worth grabbing, and one of my favorite Kubrick films, really. So that's The Killing. And then we have some Eastwood. We have, for a fistful of dollars. I think Good, the Bad, and the Ugly came out last year, but if I'm wrong, that's definitely worth getting as well. But this is also I want to say it's a new scan. It doesn't mention here, but this one looks really, really nice and ports over their features from their previous release, including a commentary by Tim Lucas, which I love Tim Lucas on Leone films. Same thing goes for a few dollars more, which happens to be my favorite Leone film. And this is the complete edit with extensive shot-by-shot color grading. And this looks spectacular. One of my favorite 4Ks of the year for sure. And one of the great, spaghetti westerns of all time. One of my favorite Eastwood movies. Another commentary from Tim Lucas and another commentary from Sir Christopher Frayling, and a whole bunch of other features. But really, really great stuff between the two of these from Eastwood. And I've got more Eastwood even with Escape from Alcatraz, him and Don Siegel making one of the great prison movies of all time based on the real story of an inmate named Frank Morris, who was purported to have escaped Alcatraz and lived. It's unknown as to whether or not he actually did. But great story. I got great wordless opening to this movie that ends in a thundercrack and a welcome to Alcatraz. And this 4K looks really nice, a Paramount release, and I love Eastwood in this movie. He's really, really at the top of his game for me. Got to keep moving through this stuff. I got a lot to cover here. This is just a fun one for me, and I've talked about it as part of my Pick of the Month series for Kino, and it's Mystery Men, and it looks really nice. This one is brand new Dolby Vision HDR master from the original camera negative. Lots of nice features, which I think are part of the 88 Films Blu-ray, which came out, which I also have. And you get a commentary from Kinka Usher, the director. I won't go too deep on this one because I already did, but suffice it to say, it's too bad this came out when it did and flopped, because I feel like it would be a hit now. I'd love to see a sequel. And it's just ahead of its time in terms of the superhero commentary that it gives. It's a great cast and just a lot of fun, and it looks really good. So another one I really recommend, Mystery Men on 4K. Got some Arrow here. Won't go too deep on these. American Werewolf in London. Just one of the great horror films of all time. A horror comedy, I guess. Definitely has some humor to it, but just a really well-made horror film. And another great 4K from Arrow. They always do it nice with these hard boxes and the booklets, and more features than you can shake a stick at. A lot of these are coming from the previous special edition they did, which was also excellent. Brand new 4K restoration from Arrow from the original camera negative, which is what we love. But I couldn't. There's too many 4Ks this year, so I had to sort of narrow it down, and I'm just going to do a quick highlights. So definitely worth getting American Werewolf if you don't have it. Another one that I liked from Arrow is Croupier, and this is a Mike Hodges film. He directed Get Carter back in the day. This was an early showing for Clive Owen for me. I remember seeing this when it came out in the theater in 1997. Wow. I guess that's older than I thought. And totally loved it. Just a great neo-noir about a younger guy played by Clive Owen who works in a sort of a casino setup and is tempted by the money inside and gets caught up with, some femme fatale stuff. It's very straight ahead neo-noir, but really well done and well portrayed by Clive Owen. A beautiful release of this, again, with a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative, approved by director Mike Hodges, exclusive bonus disc containing the new feature-length documentary Mike Hodges, A Filmmaker's Life by David Cairns and Jonathan Zorin, which is really cool. Really, really good stuff. There's a fully illustrated collector's booklet inside, new writing on the film by Barry Forshaw and others, and it's just a really sweet... This one I had to import. This was a UK-only release, but you can snag it at places like Diabolic DVD and others, and highly recommended. Croupier. From Severin Films, we have Out of the Blue, a really spectacular dark drama from Dennis Hopper, the director. And this one came out in 1980. Stars the great Linda Manns in the title role. She is a young girl sort of trying to find her identity amidst a falling apart family that is sort of anchored by her father, played by Dennis Hopper, who at the beginning of the movie drunkenly crashes his semi-truck with her in it into a bus full of school children and gets jail time for that, obviously. And so she's sort of wandering around trying to find her, I don't know who she is, and going to punk shows and just hanging out. And it's just such a raw performance, such a real performance. And it's really interesting to hear how Hopper worked through getting the performance from her. Anyway, she's a really incredible actor and is truly great in this. This is a new Dolby Vision master, and I'm trying to look. It just says Dolby Vision HDR 4K Ultra HD. There we go. Scanned in 4K from the original negative with more than 15 hours of special features and 4+ hours produced exclusively for this release. So there's just so much happening here. It's absolutely one of the best releases of the year. You have multiple commentary tracks. You have a 40th anniversary 4K restoration, premiere Q&A. I mean, just tons and tons of stuff. Remembering Out of the Blue. You got a whole extra disc of features. But really one of the great films of the 1980s. And kudos to Severin for putting this out, because I was really excited about that one. Real quick mention of Tenebrae, the Synapse film, 4K, Argento. I feel like, I can't remember if there was Argento. I don't think there's any Argento 4Ks from Arrow this year, but don't quote me on that. Those have been great, but this is from Synapse, and it's truly beautiful. Really spinning hard into the giallo genre, and one of, some would say, Argento's best films, and I would be inclined to agree with that. New 4K restoration from the original camera negative. Synapse always does an excellent job, and that is definitely the case here. Tons of features. They've obviously released this film before, so you're getting a lot of that stuff, including multiple cuts of the film in 4K. You get two versions in 4K. Anyway, really, really nice release from Synapse. Criterion, we have Double Indemnity, one of the classic film noirs of all time, with Fred McMurray, Barbara Stanwyck, Edward G. Robinson, insurance scams and such. And it is great. And another black and white 4K that looks really wonderful and has some really nice features on it. Did they mention the new 4K digital restoration with uncompressed? They don't mention specifics there, but lots of great features on this one. I'm not going to go too deep on Criterion. I'm assuming people that are interested in this have picked it up, but if you want to start on the journey to be a noir fan, Double Indemnity is one of the absolute best, and this is a great release. And speaking of noirs, a neo-noir by Carl Franklin, following up his wonderful film, his great breakout film, One False Move, which got a Blu-ray, which I'll talk about in a minute. This is a nice 4K of Devil in a Blue Dress, a really great LA set. I want to say 40s or 50s set LA noir with Denzel Washington as a veteran who is embroiled in a mystery about a missing woman. Really good movie, really great performance by Don Cheadle, another sort of breakout, and just a beautiful looking 4K release. New 4K digital restoration approved by director Carl Franklin with commentary from him. It's a great movie, really good stuff. Shaft on 4K really looks pretty good. I mean, it's a different, I want to say the film stock they use is a little grainier, but this is the best I've seen Shaft look. And I have to recommend Elvis Mitchell's documentary, Is That Black Enough for You? Is on Netflix right now. Definitely includes Shaft, but includes a great overview of black cinema of, moving from the silent era on up to the 70s, including this film and others of this period. And will make you want to watch a lot of films like this and that preceded it. Really great stuff. But a really nice release of Shaft from Criterion with some nice features as well. Then from Shout Factory, we have there's a lot of my favorite movies in this stack of releases here. Hal Ashby's The Last Detail with Jack Nicholson, all about some sailors on leave, not on leave, some sailors taking a guy to prison that they sort of turn it into a leave, but it's really great. I talked about this on a recent collection update. Jack Nicholson, one of his best performances, plays Badusky, and he is bringing Randy Quaid to the naval prison outside of where they're stationed. It's on the East Coast. Initially, they're going to run him up to the prison, and then they decide they're going to give him a good time. And it's a really, amazing movie with a lot of swearing and just a lot of fun stuff in it. You got some nice features there. This is a 4K restoration from the original camera negative, as well as an appreciation by Alexander Payne and an introduction by Payne, an interview with the editor. One of my favorite 80s comedies, Used Cars, Robert Zemeckis, getting the 4K release. And I think this one also, new 4K UHD remastered from the original camera negative. A colorful movie, includes 2 commentaries, one with Kurt Russell, Bob Gale, and Bob Zemeckis. Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis obviously wrote Back to the Future together and would go on to work on that film after this. But this screenplay for Used Cars is actually incredible in terms of its structure and the way that it builds, and it's really something to be studied, you know, as a R-rated comedy. I think it's the only R-rated movie Robert Zemeckis, no, at the time it was. He may have made another one since then. I can't remember if What Lies Beneath is R-rated. Anyway, Kurt Russell, amazing in this. Jack Warden playing multiple roles. Garrett Graham, it's just a really, really funny, raunchy comedy that I really think if you aren't already a fan of it, you need to look at it again. This came out right around the same time as Airplane and was kind of tanked by that. I think people were either going to just see Airplane and not seeing this, or somehow they didn't line up with this. It's not like Airplane exactly. It's not quite a joke a minute. It's not quite as spoofy, but it is very, very funny, and one of my favorite Kurt Russell performances as Rudy Russo, one of the greatest car salesmen ever. Really great 4K for that. God, I gotta move quicker here. Blue Sunshine got a release. This one is from Cinema Obscura. This is a beautiful 4K of Blue Sunshine, the movie about bad acid that makes people go crazy. It has an all-region Blu-ray and the 4K, and looks really good, and the booklet's sort of built into it, which I love. Yeah, Camera Obscura doing some really cool stuff, but if you didn't know that Blue Sunshine had come out, I want to say this has a lot of the features from the Blu-ray that came out recently, well, a few years back now. I'm not sure if all of them are there, but there's definitely a commentary and interviews with Jeff Lieberman, the director. Really good stuff. Belladonna of Sadness came out with a 4K here from Anime Limited, which is a UK-based company. This is a beautiful, very dark animated film, very sexy, kind of, I can't remember if it's X-rated or not, but it is, a lot of it's based on these pastel sort of drawings that sort of move. A very beautiful movie. This came out on a Blu-ray from like Cinelicious some years back. This 4K looks even better. A really nice import. Studio-wise, I was really surprised Real Genius got a 4K. It's a comedy from the 80s, and I was very happy to see it get a 4K release. It looks very nice. It's got some... it's got a TV version of the movie. It's got some deleted scenes, including the bit where Chris Knight is floating around in a lawn chair. That they show that scene. They have all these like bits of the actual outtakes from those scenes where you get to see multiple angles and multiple takes, and so it's really neat. Plus a commentary from director Martha Coolidge, who did Valley Girl and others, and this is just one of my favorite 80s comedies. Looks really great in that 4K. The Limey got a 4K Steelbook Blu-ray Best Buy exclusive. This is Steven Soderbergh's film, told in a really cool editing style, with Terrence Stamp going after Peter Fonda as a revenge for something that happened to his daughter, and also features Barry Newman. Great commentary with Soderbergh and writer Lem Dobbs, which is actually also cut up and presented in a sort of a new wavy kind of way. They're flashing back, they're repeating things, and it's kind of fun. But this 4K looks great, really wonderful studio release. Same thing with Heavy Metal, which is a Sony, and this has Heavy Metal 2000 as well. One of the great out there animated films of the early 80s. Very sexy movie. A lot of people saw it on cable. It wasn't available on video for a long time. Now it's gotten a Blu-ray and now a 4K, which looks wonderful. Highly recommending that. And then lastly, on the 4K slate, we have God Told Me To, which is one that came out from Blue Underground. This is Larry Cohen's movie about a very strange rash of murders in New York that are people seemingly possessed and shooting other people. Stars Tony LoBianco, and he's very good in this, and it looks good, and it's one of Larry Cohen's best movies, and that's saying something because he's put out a ton of great films over the years. So that is it for my 4K roundup for now. Like I said, I'm sure I will probably have a few more that I can come back to, but that's just what I want to recommend for the moment. I'll try and run through some Blu-ray releases now. I'll start with Fun City Editions. Put out a bunch of great stuff this year, but I'm going to highlight two of them. I'm going to highlight Cutter's Way, which I did a full review of. You should go back and check out. Really great performance from John Hurd and Jeff Bridges and Lisa Eichhorn. Sort of a neo-noir about a gigolo who finds a body and his buddy, a Vietnam veteran, who becomes obsessed with the idea that a rich man has killed this prostitute that he finds, and they want to try and take him down. And it's one of the great performances by John Hurd. You'll see it and you'll be blown away and surprised that you never realize how great of an actor he was. So, but really great noir and a really great release. I'm not going to go through all the features, but there's a ton of great stuff on here. A new 2K restoration from its 35 interpositive. This pulls in multiple releases worth of stuff, including the one Imprint also put this out this year. This had come out originally from Twilight Time. This is the best one. This has all the Imprint features and everything you need, and it's a great movie and a must-own. And then lesser known, but still definitely worth your time, is Heartbreakers. This one has a really great cast also, and stars Nick Mancuso and Peter Coyote as friends. One's an artist, one works for a textile clothing company, and it's sort of about their relationship. It's a male friendship movie. It's hard to categorize, really. It's writer-director Bobby Roth doing something very interesting with male friendship in this, and it's not a bromance. People are calling it that. I mean, it's much more about the complications of male friendship, and I don't know. I'm just a big fan of it, and it's a movie that really was not very well known and didn't get much of a release previous to this. I think it had a DVD previous to this, but this is a really wonderful Blu-ray with a 2K restoration from the interpositive and great performances by the leads as well as Catherine Harold and others. Really, really great stuff. I want to recommend this one, and it might be a blind buy for some people, but it's worth your time. Real quickly, studio releases. This is a terrible cover, but I do love Ordinary People, Robert Redford's film from 1980. Story about a kid played by Timothy Hutton who's dealing with the loss of his brother and severe depression, and his parents, played by Mary Tyler Moore and Donald Sutherland, are struggling with how to handle him and his depression. And it's a great group of performances. Judd Hirsch plays his therapist. This is one of these movies I put on and I just get lost in it. It is emotional and downbeat in some ways, but really, really great. And this disc includes an interview with Timothy Hutton that's really good. But nice to see this on Blu-ray. Then we have a cult favorite from Kino Lorber, Times Square. This is from director Alan Moyle, who would go on to do Pump Up the Volume. This is a long sort of time coming to Blu-ray. Stars Trini Alvarado and Robin Johnson as two girls in New York City who are on the run. Trini Alvarado is the daughter of I think he's trying to run for city office or maybe Senate. I can't remember. But the two girls sort of meet each other. Robin Johnson, really great performance from her. Kind of a street kid, and they both end up in the hospital together, and they sort of slowly become friends, and then they're on the run in New York, and it looks like Robin Johnson has kidnapped Trini Alvarado, but that's not what's happening. And you have Tim Curry playing a DJ who's sort of talking to them through radio broadcasts. Great soundtrack, which is part of the reason it wasn't available for a long time. But this is a really nice release of this with a new commentary by Alan Moyle and that's actually an old commentary with Moyle and Robin Johnson, and then Kat Allinger does a commentary too. This is just an 80s favorite for me, a really nice cult movie about these two girls, and I just love it. Really great stuff. From Kino. Diary of a Mad Housewife. This is the second release of this. This came out from Kino previously. This one does not have the commentary from Larry Karaszewski, which is on the Kino Blu-ray, which I do miss, but it does have a TV version of the film. I mean, actually, it's got tons of stuff. And a new commentary with one of the actors and Lee Gambon. That's just okay. A confident approach, archival interview with actor turned director Richard Benjamin. Feminine Mystique, a video appreciation by award-winning editor and filmmaker Chris Innes. This has the Larry Karaszewski trailer from Hell, but a really great Frank Perry movie about a woman played by Carrie Snodgrass, who's in a terrible marriage with a very awful guy played by Richard Benjamin, who's actually very funny in his awfulness, and she encounters a writer, I believe he's a writer, played by Frank Langella, starts to have an affair, and it's just sort of her perspective on this marriage in New York, and it's really powerful stuff, and it does have humor to it, but and a great ending. I love the ending of it, but one of Frank Perry's better movies. I'm going to go through these real quick because I just talked about them, but Save the Tiger from Imprint. This is a Blu-ray debut about Jack Lemmon playing the guy who owns or runs this is a textile company again in Los Angeles, and the company's in trouble, and he's in the midst of sort of a personal midlife crisis almost, and it's one of the great Jack Lemmon performances. It's more ambiguous than he often was, and was a role he had to be talked into. So it's great to see him do that, and this has some nice features as well, including the best is the John G. Avildsen and producer Steve Shagan commentary. Avildsen would go on to direct Rocky, among other things, but he did some sort of countercultural movies like Joe in the early 70s, and this is more in line with that, but really its own thing, and really a great character study with Jack Lemmon at the center of it. I really go and look at my Imprint roundup for October. This is part of that. Another Blu-ray debut from them, North Dallas 40. Really excited to have this on Blu-ray. It's one of the great football movies of all time. Stars Nick Nolte and Mac Davis and Bo Svensson, and just sort of a really hyper, kind of critical look at the behind the scenes of a professional football organization. The NFL would not be involved in this movie at all because of its portrayals are pretty dicey in terms of behind the scenes, what goes on in terms of the partying, in terms of the treatment of the players by the coaching staff, and Nick Nolte given one of his great performances, one of the great openings, just him getting out of bed, all aching and getting into the tub full of ice to, heal himself sort of before he gets dragged off on a hunting trip by some crazy football players. But a great movie, and I really love it. Ted Kotcheff directs, from 1979, Blu-ray debut. I didn't get to talk about this one yet on the channel either, and this is Red Rock West, getting a nice Blu-ray from Plan B, which is part of, oh shoot, I'm going to forget what label this is part of. It's a UK-based label, and a really nice release from them, including new interviews with director John Dahl, editor Scott Chestnut, actor Dale Gibson, and Caged In host Petrus Patsilvas talks Nicolas Cage's performance, plus a booklet by Ian Schultz, audio commentary by John Dahl. This is one that was on my Blu-rays, needs a Blu-ray series, not on Blu-ray series that I do on this channel, and it was announced right after I put that up, which was great. But a really great neo-noir from John Dahl about a drifter who comes into a new town and immediately gets himself in trouble with some local folks and caught up in some very bad business. And Dennis Hopper's in it, Lara Flynn Boyle's in it, J.T. Walsh is in it, and it has lots of great twists and turns, and I love it. It's truly one of the great neo-noirs ever. This is a Region B locked Blu-ray. And I'll just do a few more here. American Movie got a Blu-ray, finally. Chris Smith's documentary about Mark Borchardt and his friend Mike Shank. R.I.P. Mike Shank. He passed away this year. Great story of a young man, family man in Milwaukee struggling to make his movies, and it is truly one of the most inspirational portraits of an artist I've ever seen. Mark Borchardt is just an amazing character, and you can still see what he's up to. Follow him on Twitter. He's fantastic. But just the story of trying to get some movies made in a place where it feels like it would be very hard to do that, and a position that Mark Borchardt's in, it seems almost unbelievable that he could pull it off. And so it's, like I said, truly something to behold that will perhaps entice you or inspire you to do some of your own art. That's one of the things I took away from it. Chris Smith's still making great documentaries, including Senior with Robert Downey Jr., which is on Netflix right now, and which I loved and I would highly recommend. But this is where it sort of all begins with Chris Smith. Not actually. He made a narrative feature before this called American Job, which still doesn't have a Blu-ray or really an official DVD. But American Movie's the one people remember, and it's really a special movie. This does not include the Coven short film. That's so if you have the DVD, you're going to want to hang on to your DVD because that has Coven on it, although Coven is also on YouTube. But I was glad that finally got a Blu-ray. And just a couple more here. Extreme Prejudice. This is part of the Vestron line, and this is the Walter Hill film, and it is very much influenced by Sam Peckinpah and the Wild Bunch. It's an incredible cast of characters, and Nick Nolte again. Classic, and features an all-star cast with Nick Nolte, Powers Booth, Maria Conchita Alonso, Rip Torn, and Michael Ironside. Lean Mean Texas Ranger Jack Bentine Nolte locks horns with a former friend, Cash Bailey, Powers Booth, now a ruthless drug kingpin. Though they're on opposite sides of the law, they share a love interest in the sensual Sarita. That's Maria Conchita Alonso. When the crew of rogue soldiers descends upon the border for an all-out, off-the-books mission, all roads lead to a bloody, to-the-death showdown. This one I'd gotten a German Blu-ray of, but this is better. New commentary, film historian C. Courtney Joyner and Henry Park. Isolated score without audio interview. A new interview with Walter Hill. I don't know if that's new, actually, but this is a must. This is a really great movie from the 80s and one that had been sort of lost, I think, because of availability to time. So definitely recommend that. I've got a couple noirs here. Almost done. So this is from Flicker Alley, a really great company doing lots of great restorations with the Film Noir Foundation. This is a double feature of The Guilty, and High Tide. And they both feature this actor, let's see here, what's his name? Don Castle. Two great stories, one of them based on, I want to say, well, it says The Guilty, produced by Jack Rather and released by Monogram Pictures, is a triumph of resourcefulness from its director, John Reinhardt. Both are directed by John Reinhardt. Based on a short story by legendary suspense writer Cornell Woolrich. That's who I was trying to think of. This Little Scene B movie centers around on a war veterans Mike Carr and Johnny Dixon, roommates in a low-rent tenement, working on only 3 sets with a shoestring budget. Reinhardt and director of photography Harry Sharp evoke the dreadful dead-of-night ambience that was Woolrich's domain. And High Tide has got Lee Tracy in it, and it's really great. Opens with 2 guys, a car is crashed on the beach. One of them has got their legs stuck under the car, the other's got a broken back, and they flash back on the story of how they got there. And it's one of my favorite discoveries of the year. I had not seen it, and I love Lee Tracy in these sort of like fast-talking reporter roles. The Guilty is kind of femme fatale sort of story. I don't want to spoil too much about that one because the back didn't. I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave that alone. But this one is, newspaper sort of environment, and some murders happen and who's responsible, and really good stuff. I really like this disc a lot. I really think this is highly recommended. And I just got this in the mail yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. But this is another one from them that I just know is going to end up being on a list if I want to try and get to it before the end of the year. But I wanted to bring it up just in case you're only watching this video and let you know that this is a virtually unknown remake of M, Fritz Lang's seminal 1931 thriller El Vampiro Negro, The Black Vampire, is a revisionist take on the tale by the Argentine director Roman Vinoli Barreto. Thanks to the diligent efforts of the Film Noir Foundation and a stunning restoration of the film was created by UCLA Film and Television Archive, now presented in its first ever home video release, with special thanks to Fernando Martin Pena and Argentina Sono Film. Argentine beauty Olga Zabari. Zabari stars as a cabaret performer trying to protect her daughter from a mysterious murderer while parrying the advances of the prosecutor pursuing the killer. Nathan Pinzon, who also appeared in Vinoli Barreto's The Beast Must Die, which also came out from Flicker Alley, which is also great. Bitter Stems is another foreign noir that I definitely recommend, also from Flicker Alley. The variation on Fritz Lang's classic is a proto-feminist reimagining of the story, focusing on the lives of the female characters ignored in the earlier iterations. The film's brooding cinematography enhances Olga Zubari's exceptional performance. Really excited about this one, so I wanted to let you guys know El Vampiro Negro is definitely something you're going to want to check out. And has some nice features, as you can see, including a booklet and an audio commentary, couple interviews there. I'm really excited about this one. Like I said, I haven't watched it yet, but I just know it's going to be another home run from Flicker Alley. So I will close out on that. And there's so much more I could talk about. So I'm definitely going to have to do another round of these at some point. But I want to say thank you for watching the channel this year, if it's something you chose to do. If not, if this video is your first time watching the channel, I would love it if you would go back and look at some of the other stuff I've done that I've talked about throughout the year, and maybe subscribe if it's interesting to you. So thank you for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.